Welcome back to the channel, everyone, where we love talking about movies and more. I'm your host, Mason Phillips, and today I've got another movie in our Thursday recap series. Last week was a movie from 2001. This week's a movie from 2002. Just thought I'd continue the trend with Lord of the Rings. So this week we've got The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Before we go any further in this video, I want to ask you guys to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notified when new videos go live on this channel. When you guys do that, it always helps me out, and I greatly appreciate it. We are almost at 500 subscribers on this channel, less than 200 away. So if you guys love this content, love this channel, and haven't subscribed yet, I'd ask you to please do that. It would help me out a whole lot. Now, let's get on with the plot. Frodo Baggins and the other members of the Fellowship continue on their sacred quest to destroy the One Ring, but on separate paths. Their destinies lie at two towers, Orthanc Tower in Isengard, where the corrupt wizard Saruman awaits, and Sauron's fortress of Barad-dûr, deep within the dark lands of Mordor. Frodo and Sam are trekking to Mordor to destroy the One Ring of Power, while Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn search for the orc-captured Merry and Pippin. All along, nefarious wizard Saruman awaits the Fellowship members at the Orthanc Tower in Isengard. This is just a wonderful, wonderful series. I have just been so captivated by the world of Middle-earth and everything that J.R.R. Tolkien created. I love The Fellowship of the Ring. Now, you can see my review of that film. It's on the channel now. It was last week's Thursday video. This is just one of the all-time best series ever put to screen. It's up there with the Star Wars original trilogy, the Indiana Jones films, the first Back to the Future, the first Jurassic Park movie. There's one of those series that has defined filmmaking, franchise filmmaking, defined cinema, and has just impacted so many people. I mean, it's got the same type of fandom that Star Wars or Star Trek or Marvel or DC has, just that obsessive fandom that people have for these franchises, where you want to dive into the lore, you want to find out everything you can about these characters, about the world, the nature of the world, and how everything operates. You want to know the backstory, the history. That's why they keep revisiting this series, not only because it makes money, so the studios like making stuff surrounding Middle-earth, but it's one of those that it's just so fascinating to dive back into. So you got the Lord of the Rings trilogy, then you got the Hobbit trilogy. Say what you will about the Rings of Power on Amazon, but you do have that as well. Then we got a few other things that have come out recently. The War of the Rohirrim film that came out last year. We got the Hunt for Gollum film coming out next year from Andy Serkis, or maybe 2027, I don't remember. Everybody just loves going back into this world, and such a deep well of lore, and there's so much to talk about that's why people keep going back to this world. That's why creators go back to this world. It's why the fans go back to this world. And it's done with earnesty and honesty. And I think one of the great successes of the Lord of the Rings trilogy is there's no cynicism towards the property. That's where the Star Wars series has kind of faltered under Disney's direction, especially the sequel trilogy, is there's some cynicism directed towards our original characters. They don't do that with the Lord of the Rings. At least with this film trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy, there's respect and honor for what's there. And in the case of adapting this film to the big screen, there was respect and honor for the original source material. I'm really worried about some stuff that's going to be coming out soon. I'm specifically talking about the Narnia series that's coming from Greta Gerwig on Netflix. I have next to no faith that that project is going to do well, because I don't feel like there's going to be honor for the source material. The Harry Potter series from HBO, we'll have to wait and see on that one, but that's another one where I'm a little worried that there's not honor for the source material. Here, Peter Jackson wanted to honor the source material as much as he did. That's one of the reasons why this series has so much success and why there's so much love for it. Yeah, there's a few things that are changed. You do have to adapt certain things from book to screen. There's not a way to do a one-to-one adaptation, but when you can be close to it, that's when you have to be close to it. That's when you need to adapt it as close as you can. And when there's not a necessity to make a change, you shouldn't make a change. When there is a necessity to make a change, to make it more cinematic, make those changes. But thankfully, they honored the source material, and that's where it really works. And the adaptations of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, specifically for Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and Return of the King, is they honor the source material and they honor what the project is based on. Because without the source material, without the books, you wouldn't have the films. And that's something that a lot of directors and a lot of filmmakers now need to understand. Without the source material that you're building this project off of, you wouldn't have the project you're working on now. So pay respect to what came before. Yeah, you can improve it, you can make improvements, but pay respect to what came before. There's my little rant right there. But for The Two Towers, what a wonderful continuation of the series. Now, at the end of Fellowship of the Ring, we do have a point in time where things don't look the best. Our fellowship has split off into separate groups. Now we need to see how everybody's going to either come together or just continue on their journey. And it's one of those series that I love to revisit and go back into because there's so much depth to the characters. There's new stuff introduced in here, a lot of great new stories and characters that are introduced in The Two Towers. My favorite stuff that was introduced into this film was the stuff with Rohirrim and Rohan, and where last time when I watched Fellowship, I had the benefit of having seen the Hobbit trilogy. So when I watched the Fellowship of the Ring for the first time, I hadn't seen the Hobbit trilogy, so I didn't understand some of those references, of course, like anybody who would have seen the film when it originally released in theaters. Now that I've seen the Hobbit trilogy, specifically Unexpected Journey, I had a little bit of background on what Bilbo Baggins had been through, and so when they make those references in Fellowship of the Ring, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what they're talking about. That's where it kind of elevates the story a little bit. Now it's the case of we've had the War of the Rohirrim animated film that came out last year, so now there's a little bit of context around everything that's going on with Helm's Deep and Rohan and the Rohirrim, the Riders of Rohan, and the Shield Maidens. They make one reference to Helm Hammerhand, and he was a primary character from the War of the Rohirrim. We have these references, and I think it just helps to enhance the entire world. It's where I talk about the lore being so deep in all of the Middle-earth lore. When we have these other projects surrounding these films, it just enhances, and thankfully that's what it tends to do with this entire franchise, is each edition usually enhances what you have seen already. So when you go back and revisit things like Fellowship and Two Towers, you get that enhancement of stuff that was added on later. That was a cool addition, and something that I caught when I went back and watched Two Towers is after watching The War of the Rohirrim helped to enhance certain things that the characters were talking about in the film. So with this film, my favorite thing going through this entire plot was Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas and their journey when they encounter Gandalf the White, who is no longer Gandalf the Grey. They go to Rohan and they interact with King Theoden, and everything surrounding this part of the plot is some of my favorite stuff. I love knights in armor, kings, very medieval stuff. When they can visit this part of the world, it's some of the most interesting stuff to me. Not because it's like, you know, a little bit more realistic, but maybe because it's the human element. It's the world of man. And it's a part of the world where they have all these fantastical things that surround them and they still have to survive. In spite of everything going against them, they still have this might of will to fight. And that's why I think it's so interesting to follow the character of Aragorn. Although he's not full man, you know, he's one of the Dunedain, so he's been gifted with this longer lifespan. He says he's 87 in the extended cut. And again, I'm reviewing the extended cut of The Two Towers. That's what I do when I cover these films, is I was covering the extended cut of Fellowship of the Ring, covering the extended cut of Two Towers. But his character is so interesting as far as his just will to fight, will to just do what is right for the sake of doing what is right. And we don't often get characters like that anymore, and it's so refreshing when we do, because he does it with earnesty. There's, again, no cynicism with this character, and he's just a good guy for the sake of wanting to do good. That's a character that you can really get behind, and it's not cheesy. It's all taken super seriously, and that's what I can really appreciate about a character like this and the journey that he goes on. And talking about everything surrounding these characters, I want to jump to the end, the battle at Helm's Deep. That is one of the best battles I think ever put to screen. It was so epic, and the amount of extras that they used in the massive battle at the end of this film, it's estimated about 20,000 extras were used at the Battle of Helm's Deep. And that is why I think these films are also so captivating, is they're very minimal in the CGI that they'll use. Peter Jackson tried to be as real as possible, as practical as possible, so you get that real feeling element. It feels tangible. It feels like a world that you could walk into, be a part of. Although it's very fantastical and you have all of these otherworldly things going on in the film, you still feel that sense of realism. So 20,000 extras at the Battle of Helm's Deep, you feel that on the screen when you're watching it. There's this grand epic scope. I haven't had the chance to watch this film in IMAX format or in a big theater, but one day I hope to be able to, because I can't imagine watching this on the big screen, and then when we hit Return of the King, that would be another one. That would be another great one to just watch on the big screen. And it's probably the only way this movie was really meant to be seen. I know for a fact it's the only way that this movie is really meant to be seen in its true entirety. I would love to be able to do that at one point. You feel that realism throughout this entire world. This is an interesting continuation of the series because we get these multiple stories going on at one time. It tends to happen like this with a lot of sequels. I think Empire Strikes Back kind of created the mold where you kind of split off your primary characters and kind of separate them off into their own individual groups. And that's what happens here. And of course, this is based on material that was created before Star Wars. But in the cinematic sense, we have Frodo and Sam, they encounter Gollum, so they have their own specific journey. They encounter Faramir. And then we have Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas. They encounter Gandalf. They have their journey with the Kingdom of Rohan. And then we got the stuff with Pippin and Merry and Treebeard. That's another group we're following. following, and so it's cool to watch this. But one thing, when you watch the extended cut, you get stuck on one group, and then you're thinking to yourself, it's been a while since we've seen these characters. Of course, at that point, that's when the film jumps back to those characters. So that's not a detraction from the film. When you start thinking, hey, it's been a while since we've seen these characters, we should probably get back, that's when Peter Jackson's like, yep, and that's when we're going back to these characters. So he knew not to make these scenes too elongated, even in the extended cut, not to make them too elongated, that there was a time and a place for each scene, and he knew exactly when to jump back to the plot we had visited previously. That's really cool, and how it all blends together. Although this film, even the extended cut, is almost 4 hours long, the pacing of these films keeps your attention. I never found myself to be bored. I was captivated by each scene, by each character, by each event in the film. And again, and that's just a testament to Peter Jackson and the task that he undertook, that these films are made on such a grand scale and filmed back to back to back, that the fact that he was able to put together and craft something so entertaining, captivating, and something with true meaning, that is an accomplishment unto itself. And again, Two Towers is another one of these films that was nominated for Best Picture. It was nominated for Best Picture at the 2003 Oscars for the 2002 film season. Fellowship of the Ring was also nominated. Neither film won. However, they would finally get a win with Return of the King. Return of the King did win Best Picture at the 2004 Oscars for the 2003 season. The fact that he not only created something so grand, so immersive, and something so captivating for audiences, but the critics and the Academy also took notice of what he did with these films, and to an extent that they thought that they were made so well and so brilliantly that they got nominated for Best Picture. So that's another thing that you can applaud Peter Jackson and his team for, is crafting this whole saga so meticulously that each film works on their own, but they also work together in this broader story, because it is, in a sense, a part 1, part 2, part 3 story, but each film also works on their own, as each film does have a beginning, middle, and end, and a proper first, second, and third act. The way that these films are put together, it's so incredible. I love how meticulous that Peter Jackson was in creating each film. That he did it with craft, he did it with love. I'm sure he had points in which he wanted to pull his hair out, but he stuck with it. He put his whole self into making these films. It's one of those filmmakers that just, he gives it his all when he approaches a project. And I love that he just has this great passion for filmmaking and wanting to make the best experience possible for everybody. It's an experience that everybody can love. People who love the series, who are already invested in the series, can love. It's great for the fans. It's great for the normies. It's great for anybody who gets a chance to experience the world of Middle-earth and what they created here in Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King. One note I want to leave you on, I'm going to go ahead and move on to what was mixed and negative, because I've gotten a little long-winded in here and what was good about the movie. But there's one thing that I found to be pretty interesting here, and it's that Viggo Mortensen, at one point, he kicks a helmet. He's angered at the beginning of the film. He's frustrated. He kicks this loose helmet on the battlefield. He thinks at this point Merry and Pippin may have died. They were on the journey to go find them, and they're not so sure if they're alive at this point or not. He kicks a helmet out of frustration, and when he does that, Viggo Mortensen actually broke his toe on set. So when he falls down on his knees, screams in agony and anger, he's actually screaming in agony for real, because he broke his toe. So there is an element of realism, an element of reality that entered the film there. That's just a cool tidbit that I found out about and wanted to talk about in this video. Let's go ahead and move on to what was mixed about the Two Towers. All right, what was mixed about The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers? The only thing, and I've echoed this in The Fellowship of the Ring, and it's the same thing I'm going to say here, is that the VFX, they're not cheap. They're just a little dated because of the time that they came out, but they're improved upon from The Fellowship of the Ring. You can see it getting better as we go through each film. There's a couple points, and it's really only at the beginning of the film that I noticed this. There's points in which some of the actors who may have been acting off of a green screen, and there's some poor compositing there. You can easily tell that's a real person working off of a fake set. That's not often used. Peter Jackson, again, try to be as practical as possible, but there are occasions where they had to use some green screen, some fake backdrops, and when they did that compositing, sometimes it didn't always work as well as I think it could have. But for the time, this was great visual effects. I'm not going to really knock it too hard because of the time in which this film came out. Just dated effects, not cheap effects, and they did improve with each film in the series. Finally, what was bad about The Two Towers? I said it in Fellowship of the Ring. I'll say it here. Only thing that is bad is if you both have not seen this film and if you choose to watch the theatrical version and not the extended cut. Please watch the extended cut if you watch The Two Towers. I know it's a time commitment, but if you have to, split this film up over the course of a couple nights, a couple sessions. If you have to, I would recommend watch it in one sitting. I know this is a film that clocks in close to 4 hours though, so if you have to, split it up, but watch the extended cut. You get so much more out of this film. There's several details that you actually miss, and the extended cut helps to improve the overall experience of the film. It doesn't detract. These extended cuts, they don't just add scenes to add scenes and make the film longer just for the sake of making the film longer. They actually improve upon each scene, give context to each scene, and it is so much better watching the extended cut than it is watching the theatrical cut. And I'll be transparent with you, I haven't seen the theatrical cut, but from what I know in the differences between the extended and the theatrical cut, watch the extended cut. You'll get the full version, what was really meant to be seen for audiences here. The full concept of this film is realized in the extended cut of The Two Towers. So watch that version, not the theatrical cut. One of the best films ever put to screen, one of the best series ever put to screen. I truly love this film. Again, the actors just continue to dive deeper into their characters. It's just a sense of realism. The way they created and crafted this world, Peter Jackson's vision for all of this was just incredible. The fact that it's more practical than it is visual effects helps to make this whole world feel real, like something you could walk into, be a part of, helps to bring a level of realism to the entire project. And that's what I love about films that are made like this. There was a passion, a love for making this the best version of itself possible. Lord of the Rings, Two Towers. It's one of the best films ever put to screen. I go back and forth on whether or not I like Fellowship of the Ring or Two Towers more. I think currently at this moment, I may put Two Towers over Fellowship of the Ring, but you could ask me tomorrow and it would flip again. These are films that just operate on such high quality that on any given day, I could favor one over the other. But Two Towers is just one of the best films, one of the best sequels ever put to screen. If I'm going to give this movie a rating, it's got to be a 5 out of 5 or an A+ on the letter scale, just like the first film. Love this film so much. It's not without its faults, but its faults are very, very minimal. It was epic. It was captivating. Love this entire series, and I always enjoy each opportunity I get to dive back into it. If you've seen The Two Towers, go down in the comment section and let me know what you thought of this film. I'd love to hear from you. Before you go, remember to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you get notified when new videos go live on this channel. When you guys do that, it always helps me out, and I greatly appreciate it. Remember, I'm almost at 500 subscribers, got less than 200 to go. So if you like this channel, like the content I produce here, and you haven't subscribed yet, I'd ask you to do so. It'd really help me out, and I'd really appreciate it. Hope you all have an awesome and a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video.